Welcome back to Access Anime. I'm Henshin Ikeda, and today I'm going to be finishing up my review and walkthrough of Zombie Loans, episodes 1 through 11, and the OVAs, episodes 1 and 2. I like this series. It was short. I'm going to keep my ratings and comment until the end, but it was a decent series. It does remind you of Blade, and it also reminds you of Soul Eater and Akana Famagilia, just a little bit. And if you've seen those animes and the movie, you can probably see how much of a good series this is going to be. Now, where we left off in my intro, we already know what the episode 1 was like. Now I'm just going to go over all the characters now, the new ones that have been introduced. And I'm also going to go over about some of the characters past real quick, just to sum it all up. We're going to start off with Shaito. Shaito was the character who could use a handgun in his right arm. It's revealed over time that he's 150 years old. He belongs to the Ex-Fu Mafia, and he's a tool. Not really an important person to the Mafia, but he's a tool. Now, there wasn't a lot described about the Mafia family, but in the manga there was probably more explanations, but I haven't read the manga yet, so I have to draw blanks there. Now, apart from Shaito, part of his past, there's a guy by the name of Tawahu. He's also from the Ex-Fu Mafia, and he's an exorcist. He's kind of a perverse exorcist because he's all over Shaito. He calls him master and does something that we don't get to see, but apparently I don't think it's a good thing, to be honest. I think he really abused Shaito at one point or another. But apart from Shaito now, we're going to Chika. Chika uses the katana in his other hand, and the only thing we really get to know about Chika is he loves his little sister, and he has a father that's a crossdresser that looks like a girl to a point, and nothing about his mother. Again, he really does like his little sister in an appropriate way, like in an okay way. But he has to stay away from his family, I guess, because he can't see them with the way he is. But they end up visiting him at the dormitory. Now, let's go to Michiro. Now, I was right. My hypothesis: she died in the second episode. But not the way we thought. She wasn't suicidal in the second episode. She died kind of saving her friend, or the girl that was using her, more or less. But other things we find out, her parents are dead. She is living with her aunt and uncle, so that's a given. And her parents actually knew she could use the Shinigami eyes. Oh, and by the way, that's what they're actually called, Shinigami eyes, or her powers. She can see people with the collars that are about to die, or who are zombies in general. Anyways, her parents, when they died, left her a lot of money, so she's rich, but she doesn't get the full inheritance until she's 18. Funny thing, when she joins the Z-Loan, she ends up leaving her aunt and uncle. She gives them 2 years worth of money and the house, which is in her name. I thought, okay. And now she's a homeless person. Now, apart from being homeless, Z-Loans, or I call them Zombie Loans. Zombie Loans sets her up at a dormitory, which is a shithole, to be honest. And it's run by a little girl called Shimotsuki. 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 She's a little girl. She has interesting powers which don't have a name. Like, she can calm spirits down and whatnot. She has the key to calm them down. Anyway, she's the director of the dormitories, and she's a zombie, I guess, but we don't really know that. But she is not in debt, so she doesn't have to do any of the work. And she is filthy rich. I'll tell you later on how she's filthy rich, or how we know she is filthy rich in general. She has a pet werewolf called Rakia in episodes 1 through 11, but in the OVAs it's referred to as Laika. Interesting. Another character we get to know is called Shaito, and well, not Shaito. His name's pronounced Yuta. I always pronounce it wrong because it looks weird, but it's called Yuta. And Yuta, she is a secretary. She's the one that works for the ferryman, or as we like to call him, Beko. But I'm going to call him the ferryman because it's nice poking fun out of him. I know everyone sees ferryman as the guy with the ponytail and the glasses and looks like an accountant, but his true form is a little, I don't know, it's a little more. It looks like something from Yu Yu Hakusho. Remember that girl that was on the broomstick? Well, he's got something like a broomstick. It's an oar, so it's kind of funny. But anyways, Yuta is the secretary of Zombie-Lone. She doesn't really have a lot of powers. She can heal people, and she's like a intel agent because she uses the computer constantly. But that's about it. There's not a lot of background about how she became a zombie and whatnot. And let's see, another character is Sawatari. Now, Sawatari has a medical background, so that's kind of useful to have. And in fights, he doesn't have a weapon, but his hands has like a blue glow that comes out of him, so he's like a boxer. And he's one of the older members of Z-Lone. Another character is Satsutsu. Now, I pronounce his name all the time wrong, so it's spelled S-O-T-E-T-S-U, so Sotatutsi, or I'm going to call him S, so bear with me. S, he is a senior, a third-year student, but he blew off a year to go gallivanting off in the US. And anyways, Sotatutsi is, he uses a European-like axe. It looks like a spear, but it has an axe, and it's kind of interesting, to be honest. He also drives a red motorcycle. Well, it looks like a red motorcycle. He comes back once a year to the Z-Lone company just to renew his loan, because if you can renew your loan once a year, you can live the next month, like live the next year. Because this is a catch when you work for the Z-Lones. Each year, you have to either repay your loan or you die. You can pay your monthly payments, but in general, if you want to live forever, just repay your loan. But that's that catch for them. Another character is Kayomi. Her split personality is called Yomi, so that's kind of interesting. And Yomi is in love with Michiro. She tries to molest her mostly throughout the series. And Kayomi's side is in love and has slept with S. Kind of interesting. Anyways, a little more in depth. Kayomi is her main form, is an easy slacker girl. Yomi, her other side, she has magical power. She can have prognitions of the future and see into stuff, so it's kind of interesting. And she's like more aggressive. I'll just say that. Let's see what else. Well, those are all the main characters we get to see. Now, a couple of the episodes, one of them we get to see something about the butterfly. That's one of their cases. Apparently, Chika's best friend from his past, from middle school, Shiba, joins Z-Lone for like a part-time job for one or so episodes. And he turns out to be the antagonist, the villain for a brief episode. And he ends up betraying his friends when they're on the rooftop, and shows that he's a rogue zombie that made a pact with the main protagonist in the series, called the Akashic Record Reform Committee, or as they like to say it, the ARRC. And he's an illegal zombie, so they have to take him out. But Chika slightly refuses to harm his friend, but later on, Chibi dies, commits suicide off the building, and that was the end of the series, well, of that episode. Another protagonist is one of the doctors. There's a doctor that reminds you of Dr. Frankenstein, because he brings to life golems. And he actually was also working for the Akusuki Records. His name is called Yoazumi. And Yoazumi is a scientist. He was actually the doctor I was referring to. He used to be a member of Akusuki Records Reform Committee, but he ends up dying. He gets defeated because he tries to take out Shaito. He kidnaps him because he wants the formula from the ex-Fu Mafia, but that usually doesn't work out for him. Let's see, that ends it usually for that series, episodes 1 through 11, because we're left with the ferryman getting a message from the WFO, which is, I guess, in the afterlife. That's where he works for. They just want to talk with the ferryman in general. We don't know really what it's about, because on episodes 1 through 11 there wasn't a lot of explanation on what the WFO actually, who they are, what they do. All we know is the ferryman actually works for them, and he actually transforms at the end of the episode and he goes to see them. A couple things that I wanted to know more about. Carmilla and the group she works for, the ARRC, like what's their true goals? We don't know any of that. Also, I kind of wanted to know what the WFO really is. They don't really say anything about that. There's not a lot of goals set for the Z-Lone in general, everyone that works for Z-Lone. They have another character that's part of the Z-Lone, that's an employee there, he's called the Undertaker, because that's the nickname he has. He works for the mortuary. I believe he works for the mortuary. I know he works for the funeral service, but he deals with bodies as well. He's got a little background to this series as well, but for the love of me, I don't remember his name, because he doesn't have a strong role in the series. But that ends it for episodes 1 through 11. Now, on the OVAs, a little different. We see more of the WFO. Now, these are where my couple questions get answered. Who is WFO? They're the Undertakers of the underworld. And it's kind of weird because all the members of the WFO, well, they ride these little, I want to say broomsticks, but remember from Yu Yu Hakusho, the girl that rides the broomstick? Well, they ride paddles. So it's kind of interesting. But anyways, we find out the president of the WFO is friends with the ferryman, Becco. And he's really close in a very inappropriate way. But now he's down there saying we've got something missing, and it's called the Akashic Records. And they were, to my knowledge, stolen. And we're here to find out who stole them. And he's telling everyone it's the committee, the ARRC. And he said members of that committee could be among us. And then everyone starts looking toward the ferryman, Beck. And Becco is like, he asked for permission to start Zombie-Lone, so it's okay. He had the president's permission, everything was cool. And then the president, he starts talking. He's like, well, I opened up a loan called a live loan. Because this is a great idea you have, why keep it all to yourself? And he makes it interesting. He has a tournament. He opens up an office right across Zombie-Lone, and it's called A-Loan. And the object is, at the end of the month, if you can make 10 million yen, your company can stay afloat. The other guys get wiped out. And that was kind of interesting. But we find out the members of A-Loan. I don't know their names, but we have 3 members. Each member is the polar opposite of Shaito, Chika, and Mitsuru. The girl that's opposite of Mitsuru, she can't actually see the glam sight. Not glam sight. She can't see like Shinigami eyes. She doesn't like have them in general. It appears like she has them, but she does a technique with her hands to see the zombies with the collars. Another guy, he's the polar opposite of Shaito. And the one that's polar opposite of Shaito actually, well, he has a machine gun. Makes no sense, but he's got a machine gun. And the third member is the polar opposite of Chika, but instead of 1 blade, he has 2. And each member can work by themselves. They're not bonded like Shaito and Chika are, because they actually have to swap hands to have their powers. These characters, they don't have to. But, they're doing pretty good. A-Lone is already ahead. Now, Shimakusuki, the director of the dormitory, comes out early and she says, well, I'll pay you 10 million yen to Zombie-Lone since I like you guys and it'd be a shame if you guys went out of business. But Becca was like, no, because I can't accept this, because this is like a trial for these guys. If they can't cut it, then they weren't meant to, have lives. So he puts them through a rugged trial. Now this is where it becomes interesting, because we get to see the ARRC, the committee, and all their members now, and who they actually are. I'll start with Carmela. We get to see Carmela yet again, and Chaitos yet again. And Chaitos gets struck down by a Grim Reaper, an anti-Grim Reaper. And this is kind of interesting because the anti-Grim Reaper is the one that stole the Grim Reaper that was in episodes 1 through 11, took its core out, which is why their Grim Reaper's a little dinky doll. And anyways, this anti-Grim Reaper has a scythe and everything, so it's kind of interesting to see where that's going, but we don't get to know anything beyond that. Now, Chaitos, he also works with Carmela. He's actually a zombie. Now, we find out Carmela, she's part of the WFO. She's from the WFO world. I don't know if she works for the WFO, but we don't get to find that out. But she's not a human. And the president of this committee, are you ready to get shocked? I think you're ready to get shocked. It's the president of the WFO. The guy that's running the tournament, the guy that's running the other organization. He's the antagonist, the big antagonist of the ARRC. So that's interesting. But they're gonna go after, I guess, Zombie Loan now, but we don't get to find out the end result. So you have to read the manga to find out what's gonna happen. That's all I can say. Because the last thing we see is A-Lone battling with Z-Lone. That's all we're seeing. And you're seeing the AARC on top of a building getting ready to jump in. There really wasn't left after that. So the OVAs kind of leave you hanging. I'm just saying that. I mean, episodes 1 through 11 gave you good enough closure. And then you start with the OVAs, just like after episode 11, you go to episode 12 and 13. Those two OVAs are in sync with the series, so it's good, it's in sync with the series, but it just, that last episode is like, I'd have to give it a, I mean, I was shocked, the president's head of the AARC, but there was no closure. I mean, there's so many questions you want to ask. Like, okay, why are you turning? Do you have the scroll you were talking about? I forget what it was called. The Akashic records. We don't know if he has the records or not. So again, we don't know. We don't know the fate of Shaito, Chika, or Michiro. We don't know if they beat A-Lone or not. So we're in the dark on all that. So downside of the series is we don't get to know unless you read the manga. But that ends it for my review and walkthrough of Zombie Loan episodes 1 through 11 and the OVAs episodes 1 through 2. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Comment down below, definitely. Subscribe. Check my Twitter out. And that ends it for today. Again, I gave this whole series 4 out of 5. I'm being generous because they get a shitty ending so far. But I'm being generous. Well, that ends it for today. Later on I might be doing Naruto Shippuden if it comes out today or tomorrow. And I'm going to start the anime series On Go later on this week. So that'll be interesting. Well everyone, it's that time again. I gotta say it. You can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later guys.